I want to thank this Thoughtworks family for inviting me to share my viewpoint on this shift in this whole new business model, what we call it as an XaaS, right? And I think this is both in the personal as well as the professional space. I think last 2 days, hearing these different speakers has been very insightful, right? It's been a lot of learning for me personally. And I think like one thing which I collected was this whole shift is not unnatural, right? Our today's need is driving this whole new paradigm. And Hari from yesterday, I was hearing him speak from Hari from PwC, where he really described well about how and why of this whole new paradigm. Today morning, we heard from Bharat from Trade Avenue, what he expects from the XaaS provider, service provider, and how important the trust is all about. So I think with all of these learning in this last 2 days, I think it's a perfect segue to hear from a company which is actually providing these XaaS services, right? And we do keep the trust. We believe that the trust is the most critical factor to be successful in there. If you look at our vision, our company vision for years have been to be the essential technology company, right? This becomes more important in this whole data era. And while our company vision has not been unchanged, we definitely continue to evolve our strategy, looking at those market dynamics, which is always changing. Right? And one thing which we realize the strongest change, what we are really observing, is the way customer wants to build a relationship with us. Right? It's more an outcome based. It's more of the value driver. I heard a couple of folks even, sharing views through question answers or comments. I think we in this world is really, redefining a customer and vendor relationship, right? It's no more a vendor, it's no more a customer, but it's more of a value partner. Right? And Dell as a value partner want to participate in our customer success, and we want to really enjoy your success. And in that process, Dell becomes successful throughout this, right? So, hopefully, I know it's a Saturday and it needs a lot of enthusiasm and curiosity to listen to a content, especially in this whole as a service world where there are so many content which is, competing to get our attention. Hopefully, I'll make it fruitful, something what you can take back home, just like I've taken many things back home, listening from different, speakers out there. We will. So let me move to the next slide. What happened? Yep. Can you guys see my agenda slide now? It took me a while to shift my slide. I hope.
Yes, Bhanu.
Cool. So we'll, I'll try to keep it brief. I know it's almost before the lunchtime. So quick introduction from me. Then we'll talk about, how our customer, what customer is demanding from us. How are we trying to deliver those, and how are we trying to measure those business values, what we are delivering it to the customer. Then, I belong to Dell Digital family within the Dell technology. So what's our organization role in this whole enablement? And then, the last part is question and answers. While I'll try my best to answer, I'm sure through these questions, I'll get to carry a lot of interesting perspective, which I can take back home and make our engagement with customer more successful. So again, this is me, a younger me, I think 5 years back. As I've been with this IT industry for last 16, 17 years, and in the present role, me and my team have been, is sort of building a trust engine, I would say, right? This whole monetization platform has to come with a high trust. So we are in this process of building that trust engine, which drives a much superior engagement with our customers, right? And we want to change the language, which is purely based on what customers' priorities are, rather than not what we want to offer. Yeah, again, on the again, this is more of a recap, right? What we have heard from numerous speakers yesterday and today. I think before XaaS became such a buzzword in the enterprise industry, I think we slowly got habituated to it in our daily life, in our personal space. Whether the way we were consuming, entertainment, we are automobile is what we heard about, the music, the clothing, and everything else. And that change in the behavior, I think as a human, we always end up bringing it into the enterprise world too. And I think one best example I can give in these ERP world, right? If you look at ERPs, if people have worked on ERPs 10 years back, the entire experience was so boring. It was so slow. Nobody would love to, if you have a day where you have to spend your entire day working on a ERP screen, you aren't a happy soul. But then this whole new era of new modern platform, social platforms, e-com platform, where we started engaging with that for our day-to-day living, ERP companies were forced to bring that change even in their product, right? Their product got to cater to the new taste which we have started getting in our personal life. I think that's where that's what started moving to the enterprise. We started carrying those preferences into the enterprise world, into our day-to-day work. And high-tech industry is not immune to that, the change in preference either. Right? I think today, if you look from the customer ask, if you talk to customers, I think there has been a significant shift from desire to acquire a technology asset, which is depreciating in nature, to more subscribing to an outcome, right? Which can help them meet their business objective. In industry, this is also, there's also a phrase being coined called movement, transition from ownership to usership, right? You don't want to own an asset, but you want to own the outcome, or you want to rather subscribe and use or enjoy the experience, right? Or the value what you get out of it. IDC and Gartner did a study, and they try to quantify that shift, especially in the technology world. And if you look at it, 61% of these organizations, and I think it's much more, right? This was like February 2021. Today, when we talk to customer, I'm sure this number is way beyond 61%, where customers is interested in more of a consumption-based model, right? I would take a step forward. It's not only about consumption-based model, but it's about a value what we can give it to them. In a couple of years, we are really seeing that infrastructure, which would be running at the edge, 75% of them would be consumed as a service. And more than half of a data center would move to, consumed as a service. Now, whether it's a public cloud, private cloud, or a hybrid cloud, right? But that's the thing. Again, just in a year's time, what Gartner says is more than almost close to half of our storage capacity which will be deployed would move from a capex to opex in there, right? And it was just like 15% a year back before this whole pandemic came in. So this was very apparent from all these studies. This has been very apparent in a lot of our interactions with customers. So we don't want to left far behind. So Dell has taken this journey a few years back to meet this change in preferences. We have been there for decades. If you look at the way traditional sales was all happening, was as a customer, you would reach out to Dell, says, what, I'm interested in a particular client software or a client hardware, like a certain set of laptops, and it's my decision, how I would use them. Or infrastructure product is what they would buy from us. They would pay us. They would go back, and in case they have a problem, they would reach out to us. And we all know this, what it means, right? We have this longer sales cycle out there, right? And this whole the deployment, the management continues to be owned by the customer, right? And this took customers away from their core priorities, right? Maintaining a data center may not, or maintaining your IT infrastructure is not your priority. You heard from Bharat, right? You want to identify opportunities which is not your forte, and you want to find partners doing that. But we are doing this, we continue to do this. Then I think this whole as a service started really with the software. And we as a Dell took this plunge a few years back when a lot of our partner softwares started adopting a subscription-based model. So we had to go and re-architect our system to support that, right? Our partners who were offering software, they also wanted us to manage that customer engagement, a customer lifecycle. So we built an engine where we can constantly be in touch with the customers. We can continue to renew their services, and we continue to give them a world-class experience, with a certain amount of predictability in software spend. We've done extremely good at that. And last few years, in the recent few years, is all about why software. Why this entire hardware can be packaged, which is more outcome centric. And this is where Dell launched an Apex, and we have been working on that. And we are scaling this Apex. It started with the infrastructure hardware, but we are scaling this to even a client hardware. Think about when I say client hardware, and it's referred as CSG, Client Solution Group, is a company XYZ, let's say somebody in creative industry with 1,000 employees want, desktop, laptop for the day-to-day people productivity. Yeah. So why can't I or Dell as a company offer them that entire experience as a service, rather than they getting into the nuances of, how many laptops should I be buying? There are interns joining in, oh, I need to buy this 20 laptop for those interns. And when they go back, I don't know what to do there, right? Lying on the shelf. So we want to, bring all of these to the market in an as a service model. Okay. Right. I mean, so what's the whole business value out here, right? When we are talking about XaaS model. Before we started that, I think what we did was we scripted a technology life cycle in an XaaS model, and we put it into these 4 buckets: procure, deploy, operate, transition. And across these life cycle, our customer faces with different challenges. They have different problem statements out there. But we wanted to ensure that among all of these, we continue to deliver simplicity, agility, and control throughout the life cycle. Yeah. For example, let's talk about the procurement, right? If procurement is all about ease of acquiring a technology, deployment is all about, the speed, right, at which you can have infrastructure available for a company to deploy their workload there. Then if you look at operate, it's all about, the efficiency, right? How do you remove the complexities out there? It's all about efficiency game. You want to be simple. You don't want downtimes. You want easy patching, things like these, right? And then transitions. Every technology has a life, and in this fast-moving world, this life continues to reduce, right, for the good reason. So how do you transition, continuously upgrade, continuously move to a more modern technology without incurring a lot of cost to it, right? So it's all about, lowering the effort in transitioning out. So in all these stages, we wanted to be simple. We wanted to give a simple experience to our customers. We want them to be agile, and we want them to take a control. You heard about, from Bharat earlier in the day as an XaaS consumer. You may get driven away with a particular technology, but very soon you realize that cost is, blowing up. That means you don't want to get caught into the situation that when you want to control the cost, you do not have a control over that. Right? And when we offer these, at the end of the day, what we call it as these words and nouns and adjectives are good. You at the end of the day, what matters really needs to be measured. Right? So we identified these 4 dimensions against which we started measuring the business values, what we started offering to our customers. Cost optimizations. It's all about lowering the cost. Productivity. Right? As companies are moving to a high value game, it's no more a cost conversation, but it's always about a productive conversation. And there are many companies in these tech eras where, just a handful of companies have created a multi-billion-dollar businesses out there. And if it not have been productive, they wouldn't have been able to do that. Or if they spend a lot of time on thinking about optimizing the cost. Digital resiliency is very important, right? None of your customer would come back to your platform if they face continuous hiccups on that. Right? Gone are those days where you can take downtime to upgrade your software or to remediate your security vulnerability in case if you encountered any. Right? And then about how our offering can help customers focus on the business growth. Right? So these are the 4 dimensions we identified all through the life cycle. Yeah, again, right, these are very insightful numbers from IDC. Again, what they did is they interviewed customers who have been using our Apex offers in terms of the value, what they have been getting in across these stages. Now, if you look at the procurement stage, one of the survey from Gartner, Forbes says that 5x, the IT managers have felt that their purchasing experience hasn't got simple in last few years. Right? Their planning time continues to be high. I mean, you talk to any IT managers, ask them what it takes to plan their future infrastructure need, and they'll tell you the pain. Right? And once you identify what you need to acquire, the humongous long cycle, sales cycle, right? Which really we lose an opportunity. We lose an opportunity to take your offering to the market quicker. Right? So we wanted at that stage where we could reduce our partners' planning time, where you don't have to worry about with the flexibility we give. What you get on the public cloud, can I bring in the experience on the private cloud where you can scale out, scale in as you grow, right? So you don't have to worry about solving myriads of problem, whether I'm over purchasing or I'm under purchasing. Once you have that, if you talk about the deployment, yeah, fair enough. You send out a PO and your partner needs to ship them. Then you need to run those deployment and you need to run so many activities before it actually gets available for you to run the workload. It's huge. And 65% of the customer, IT managers or the business decision makers say and agree that, the deployment time continues to haunt them, right? It takes up to almost 30 to 32 weeks, a type of thing in some scenarios. Then if you go to the management with plethora of technology, yeah, we started with virtualizations, we moved to PaaS, we have Kubernetes, running these infrastructures continues to become complex. Acquiring a talent to manage those has never been more difficult than today's era, and it'll continue to be more complicated, right? So how do I reduce that complexities so that you have more money and resources and time to focus on things which matters most? And then obviously at a transition, you want a zero impact to your business, your business continue to at that stage. So if you look at this, this is very interesting, right? Among all the IDC spokes to close to 600, I said decision makers who have already adopted consumption-based model, right? And depending on their maturity, where they are, whether they have been using for more than 12 months or less than 12 months, or they intend to start using it in next to 12 to 18 months. If you look at it, these are the key business related benefits what they're looking for. And all of these benefits is really encompassed within our technology life cycle, which we have thought through, right? And all those business dimensions, what I mentioned earlier, really, validates our hypothesis from the market, right? That means we are listening closer to what customer is asking for. So if I don't want to go through all these numbers out there, this is quite exciting, could be read. And these are the real data from customers who have, before they were onboarded on Apex, and with Apex, how their cost of IT infrastructure or the reduction in infrastructure team time has reduced drastically, right? Similarly, what it takes to add more capacity, either to their existing, data center, or building a new branch, right? You want to build a new branch, maybe it could be an edge, or it could be another data center. How this, how Apex has reduced all of these things. The most and the last part I really still wanted to cover up is, as a Dell Digital, right? Also erstwhile known as Dell ID, what has been our role in this whole enablement, right? This is a big initiative, a big transformation the entire Dell technology has taken, and every business unit has committed themselves in making this successful, right? Again, I wouldn't go through all of those, but I want to just touch upon 2 or 3 things, specifically where I heard earlier speakers talking about it, right? Customer zero, right? What it really means is, I heard earlier talking about don't missell, don't promise wrong things. And also a remark on sales can get very creative. I echo with that. So what happens is, anything what we take it to the market, we Dell Digital, eat our own dog food, right? We taste our own champagne. And as a customer zero, all the feedback, good and bad, is shared with our offering team, and they iron out all the issues before it is taken to the customer. Because of this whole initiative, a lot of our customers who are buying the product, they actually interact with us, Dell Digital. We have a platform, we have a program called Dell Proven, where we share our story, an honest story as an IT team. What are we struggling with, and how we have solved those struggles, right? So it's not salespeople speaking, but it's the IT managers, is the IT ground staff which is speaking, and customer can correlate and resonate with that, right? So that's very important what we do. Again, trust, right? That's the other thing. While these awesome flexibility what you get from an XaaS provider, the elasticity what you get from those XaaS providers, many a time we are surprised with a lot of things, especially on the financial end, right? Your cost can balloon up without even you realizing it. So how can I bring in predictability in that whole and transparency in this whole business, right? So we work to ensure that everything what we do in a high trust environment. Just talk about globalization and capability as a Dell Digital team. I think 2 unique challenges what we have is, if you look at Dell, right? And building a monetization platform for Dell has been unique in 2 perspectives. One is, look, I mean, the whole suite of product or services which Dell is offering is very diverse, right? where you and I, as an individual customer, can buy certain product and services. You can buy Dell softwares, you can buy third-party softwares. At the same time, there are infrastructure or data center or infrastructure hardware also is there on an offer, as well as these services, consulting, whatnot. So how can you build a platform which caters to all those diverse set of products, as well as diverse customer profile? Because typically, if you look in the industry, right, they're catering to a certain set of a customer or a certain set of homogeneous product, unlike what Dell technology is offering. If you go to AWS, it's all about infrastructure, right? But here it's a diverse set of products. How do you build a capability which works for all? Not only that, while we are pretty excited about this whole new model, we also know that our existing business model continues to go stronger. So whatever we do cannot disrupt that, right? That means a customer can have a footprint or can have a relationship which is CapEx based, traditional way, and they may also have a relationship which is more outcome based. And how can I show, and how could I serve them holistically across all those business models? Another challenge. And whatever we do, right, because of the scale, Dell is like operating today in 180 countries. Whatever we do, we got to promptly scale to that bigger geography or that bigger locations, right? Ensuring that statutory requirement is met, ensuring that the local business processes are met, and things like that. I think with this, I would say I'm done. Look for any questions.
Hey, thank you so much, Bhanu. Great presentation. I think we have a couple of questions for you. So just will go for that. First one is it's not named. Actually, someone has posted it anonymously. Engage, monitor, improve. This is the virtuous cycle or at the core of the anything as a service effect. We can measure engagement and monitor performance and improve, but the same can be done with non-service tools as well. Then why do you think we are moving to anything as a service model anyway? That's the question.
I think the biggest one, you heard it from the XaaS consumer, right? Bharat talking about it earlier. You want to invest your time, resources, and money in the thing which matters to you and your business, right? You do not want to care about things which is not your forte. But at the end of the day, those are very, very critical for you to be successful. Take an example of a company which is, let's say, has a set of designers, right? Creative people. Their entire time and energy need to be spent on creating creative content day in and day out. They shouldn't be spending time on finding the right client softwares or a client hardware for them, and giving them the support and ensuring that as these softwares, these so-called softwares, when it upgrade, it needs a different set of compute now, right? Because as softwares are getting richer, their need for the hardware continues to grow, and you need to move and continuously upgrade in a very seamless manner, right? So I think it's monitor is fine, measure is fine, but how do you react to that is very important, because just monitoring and measurement is not important. And reaction to those monitor and measure, it takes a lot of time and energy, right? You do want your right people or right value partners to take care of those who are expert in it.
That's a very appropriate example. Actually, it was quite relatable to me also as a user. So the next question is, could you elaborate a bit more on customer zero?
Yep, so good. So what happens is, a lot of when our sales goes and sells, right, or gets creative with the sales pitch, that this is what we can do, this is how we are changing the world for you, and all of that. This is all good, right? Today, Dell technology itself, if you look at it, is 150K to 200K employee base in there. Our own Dell Digital budget is in billions, right? This is okay. Show me what magic are you doing in house. So what happens is, if that has to happen, we as our internal IT partners, we got to use every product which goes into the market and provide the feedback to our customers when they are interacting with us. I'll give you an example. For example, today we have under Apex called data storage as a service. Before we launched it into the market, we as an IT partners, we acquired that technology in a subscription-based model. We ran through the process of what it took us to how we, the difficulty it took us away from planning it out, thinking far ahead, not worrying about under provisioning and over provisioning. Whether the procurement was very seamless, whether the deployment happened within the time to value, which is sold to us, and then managing them is easy or it's difficult, right? And especially when we have a diverse type of infrastructures, right? All of those, and that feedback gets to our product team to ensure that they are solving. And we gave a lot of feedbacks. We gave tons of feedback, and they incorporated all those feedback before they reach out to the customers, right? And then at the same time, customer reaches out to us, says, okay, you tell me how things are looking at, and we share them our own learning to customers, right? Through real demo, through real data points and all of that stuff. So it's all about, having your own dog food or drinking your own champagne before selling it out.
That's true. Thanks, Bhanu. The next up in line is when it comes about monetizing. How is a XaaS model better than, let's say, a SaaS only or any on-prem model? What tips do you have to monetize the XaaS model?
Yeah, I think there's it's a very interesting questions, right? And I feel very few companies have mastered this art. I think the language, if you really want to mature as an XaaS service provider, what you really need to look at is the value, right? They say, while feature tells, value sells, correct? What is the value you're bringing onto the table? It's no more about acquiring certain terabytes or petabyte of data. I'll give you an example. In this, when pandemic came in and there was a certain need of remote working, companies weren't prepared for this, right? Companies started looking for, acquiring technology to run VDIs where remote employees can go and start working on it. And it wasn't easy. You haven't planned for it at all. How do you know what is the right size of technology you need to acquire, whether it will work or not? Your diverse employee profile has a diverse need. Your developer would have a very separate need than a creative designer, and then again very different need from a sales workforce. What do you do among all of this? What we as a company came in and says, look, you could actually not worry about any of those. We offer you a VDI as a service. What's your problem? You want to run 1,000 employees with these type of profile very seamlessly, right? So what are we solving? We are solving a problem of enabling our partners to help employees do a remote working. That language change, brought in a lot of, good conversation. It was no more only about finance conversation. It was not only a cost conversation about reducing the cost. And as you go up the scale in providing higher value, believe me, as an XaaS service provider, the opportunity to earn dollar margin, right, continues to grow, right? So I think that would be my answer.
Fair point. I think that explains a lot. I hope that addresses a question for the one who asked it as well. Next up, we have a question from Sheena. She started by thanking you, Bhanu. She felt that this was an extremely informative session. And her question is, moving to XaaS, how did it change the revenue recognition and sales compensation model now that deal sizes are spread over a period of time and not upfront?
Oh, Very interesting. I tell you, these two were the most complicated things to solve, and I don't know whether we have solved perfectly, right? Sales compensation continue to evolve, right? Continue to evolve, continue to change. Company like us, where you have a significant sales workforce, it's not been an easy journey, right? Making them change the language has not been easy. So I think it's a work in progress, I would say. From an accounting perspective, it's a slightly different approach, right? What we took is when we started looking at our, infrastructure life cycle, what we also drew was a customer life cycle or a customer workflow, whatever you want to call it. And I touched upon earlier that Dell has a very diverse set of products. And our go-to-market strategy is also is plentiful. I mean, it's not only one way which we can offer the same value. There are numerous ways. Now, what that mean was we needed to think and bucket everything what we do into a certain accounting archetype. So what we did was we sat with the finance experts, we sat with the tax consultants, whatnot. We looked at every potential, contracts what we sign with the customer or how we deliver a particular service and values, and we clubbed them across. I think it came out to, if I'm not wrong, 10 to 12 archetypes. And once we had those archetypes well defined, it was much easier to educate internal finance team at all the levels and also the technology team like us to go and build a platform and says, okay, these are the parameters which will be used to define an archetype. And once an offer or a contract falls within this archetype, this is how your revenue treatment would be. And another challenge is while we are doing all of this, again, I spoke about it, we continue to grow on the traditional model. So we came up with one global solutions which can do all of that stuff.
So I think a lot has to do with seamless communication to the right sources.
Yep, absolutely.
Information. These segment customers often.
Didi, your voice broke for me a bit. Sorry, if you could repeat.
Is it better now?
Yep, much better, please.
Okay. The SMB segment customers often is underserved in such hardware as a service or infra as a service. Is the basket size of offering may serve as hindrance in serving through the service?
Not really, right? I mean, that's again an awesome part, right? Look, we did not want to build something which catered to a certain set of sizes of companies, but we wanted to cater to all the sizes. And the most interesting part was we wanted to give this wherever our customer needed, whether it is on the public, whether it is next to public, whether it is our colo place, or whether it is, on, private data centers. So that's the good part, right? I mean, if you look again, going back to the earlier speakers spoke, right? When you go, let's say, and again, all these different infrastructure model is good, right? There's nothing right or wrong, but you got to deploy it for the right use cases. Otherwise, you get into problems. And then when we realize that, for example, you feel that a certain use cases could move to a public cloud. Presently, you have been running on your internal data centers. The cost to move that is not only the cost what you give it to the XaaS providers, but it's also about those internal effort to refactor those to make it compatible with that, right? Number one. Second, if you have leveraged public cloud a lot and you want to repatriate to the private data centers, again, the cost of moving those data or those VMs or those workload back into is not easy, right? Our cloud offerings, whether we call it as an hybrid cloud, let's take an example of hybrid cloud. When you have this hybrid cloud, you could do any of these very seamlessly, irrespective of the cloud technology you are using it, right? So I think there is a host of offerings. You want to run them on public cloud, you want to run them on the private, you want to leverage the colo, whatnot, right? So that we are sensitive to all the sizes of our customers. Yeah, that would be my answer.
Thanks,
And
Bhanu. So,
in fact, I'll just close in, right? Especially if you look at our client side, IT of the service, there's a more greater interest from the SMB side today, right? And especially when you know that you do not want to keep any piece of technology which is not being used. And especially, these smaller size companies, these startups, they hire a lot of interns, and interns has a smaller life at the company. What do you do with these assets? So it is open for all. Thanks.
right, but there's a high level of planning that has to go beyond all this, basically.
Yep.
So the next question, we just have two more questions. So next is from Ria. What do you think are the three most important and differentiating factors for organizations to be able to scale to an XaaS model?
What is the, sorry, repeat once again, please.
Three most important and differentiating factors for organizations to be able to scale the XaaS model.
To scale the XaaS model. See, there are few things which is very obvious, but we overlook, and there are few things which we need to put in thoughts, right? And I'll tell you, the most undervalued factor is your employee workforce. Whatever we do, right? Whether we take a decision of moving to forget about XaaS, right? Just changing softwares. The reskilling what you go through is huge, right? So what I would say is, when you adopt something, you got to be sure that whatever you adopt is the natural state is very closer to human behavior, right? That means if you are, if we have been doing something in a particular way, and overnight you want me to change and do things very drastically, even for the right reasons, we wouldn't do that. And we again heard earlier, just change of a communication tool creates such an uproar that a CEO has to pitch in to change things there. So I think the employee workforce is the most important factor you need to consider, whatever technology shift you want to do, irrespective of the business model, I would state. Second is, this whole the right focus what we are getting around the security, right, and the data sensitivity. GDPRs are coming, private data policies are there. Is that new technology what you are acquiring, a new business model what you are acquiring? Yes, I know you got excited earlier for the speed what it brought, but will it get you into a problem tomorrow with the security or with the local compliances, I would say. So that is the second thing. And the third thing, which is, look, we all are here with a right intent to be getting married in a business relationship, but things doesn't go as always planned. Yeah. So what's the plan B? Is plan B as good as your plan A? Right? That means no specific vendor lock-in, no specific technology lock-in. You should not be arm twisted at a later stage. I think these are the three things what a company should look for.